It's Karl from Cologne, Germany. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Mark. Hello, everybody. It's good to be back.
Well, we're great to have you back on board, a good friend of our museum. We met Alex a couple years ago. Marty, you got the bottom banner you need to change out there. So we do a lot of oral histories made possible by the Marie Louise G's West Endowment that helped us buy a lot of equipment here. So we're grateful for that. There's Alex. He's a EuroCom, which means here in America that would be Capcom. It talks to the astronauts on the International Space Station. He's an ESA contractor. And like I said, a great friend of our museum. He's been in our museum several times to support the European astronauts going to the ISS. He's going to talk about Samantha Cristoforetti and her first spacewalk, and a lot of history involved in there. Alex, good to see you, buddy.
It's great to be here, Mark.
It's 10 o'clock in the evening there. So, are you still on your work schedule?
Well, I had dinner, so I'm kind of off from work for now.
Okay. Well, we enjoy him taking the time, and he'll be back and see us. He's going to tell us when he's going to be in the States. One little side note to our visits with Alex, he mentioned it. Uh, uh, we understand in our condolences that Queen Elizabeth passed away today, and that will be a tremendous impact and a big deal over all European countries with Queen Elizabeth being a monarch for such a long time. And last time we had you on, Alex, Ukraine was invaded by Russia, and you had to kind of be mum a little bit about what was going on in the space station up there. But comment about the harmony and three Russians, three Russians, three Americans, and Italian Samantha Cristoforetti up there, and everything's pretty copacetic, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, in space, you got to work together. So hopefully, we can do that on Earth as well.
Well, that's the goal. And behind me is the blue line, the only border that should matter, that thin blue line. And right behind you, too, in the beautiful International Space Station. So we have Marty. I can bring my pictures up here. We wanted to show where he works. Oh, yeah, they're going to cover me. Okay, that's the way it is there. And there's Cologne, Germany, where you're talking to us from. What's the name of the river? The Rhone?
The Rhine.
Ah,
The
Rhone or
Rhone
Rhine.
is in France. So
Okay. Yeah. You want to go this way? I can go that way too. Just let me know. Okay. All right. Good. And your office is around there. Here's another picture of the ESA complex there. Tell us what happens there, Alex.
yeah, so that is the European Astronaut Center. That's where well, the home of the European astronauts, really. We have a big training hall with mock-ups. It's similar to Building 9 at JAC, where the astronauts train and get familiar with all the hardware. We also have a neutral buoyancy facility where they practice spacewalks. We do have three divisions there. One is the medical division, and they're all taking care of astronaut health, obviously, and exercise and nutrition, things like that. We have the training folks who make sure that all the um, astronauts flying to the ISS, they will pass Cologne at some point and get trained on the Columbus systems and maybe some of the experiments that they're going to perform. So that's happening also there. And then the floor I'm working at, that's basically the astronauts and the crew support, where our astronauts work and people like me and my teammates make sure that they can focus on their job and we take care of the rest. And of course, we have the EuroCom console there, from where we talk to the astronauts on the ISS. And currently, what is happening there is our astronaut selection is ongoing. It's going into the final stages, and we hope by the end of this year we have a couple of new European astronauts to announce.
Uh huh. Uh, well, that's awesome, and maybe one of those would end up being on the moon someday. as part of our Artemis program here, which I was talking to you before we went live. It's been crazy around here. You're very familiar with the Space Coast. 2 Artemis scrubs. The word. So you were in on a. I missed the press conference today, but breaking news also here. Tell us about what's the latest that you listened to a NASA press conference today about our Artemis launch and your ESA service module attached to Artemis.
Yeah, so the latest I heard, so I was listening into the NASA press update this morning for you, this afternoon for me, and they were talking about where they are at in terms of repairs and the process and so on, and if they can get a waiver for the from the range people. And if they can finish the repairs to the hydrogen connectors in time, then the earliest launch date we might be looking at is September 23rd, with another option on the 27th, and then potentially also one early October, but they haven't decided on a date yet because it might potentially overlap with the Crew 5 launch that is currently scheduled for the 3rd.
Tell us that scenario there. Crew 5, Crew 4 is part of the Expedition 67.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So as you know, the ISS crews, they have a 6 months rotation. So the next to go up is Crew 5, and they're currently scheduled on the 3rd of October, as I mentioned. And there's about a 5 days, 1 week handover period foreseen with Crew 4, because of course, once you get some people up there, and I understand 3 of the Crew 5 astronauts is their first space flights, they're rookies, and they do have one experienced crew member on board with Japan's Koichi Wakata. It's always good to have a personal handover in space, so they can give them a little tips and tricks and help them adapt to life on the space station. So, of course, and then Crew 4 would come down and splash down on the 10th of October, or at least that's the undock date. So I believe then on the 11th, they would splash down. And if Artemis would also launch around the same time as Crew 5, they would obviously need to deconflict that somehow. And that's up to NASA management to decide who gets priority, the right of way, to so to say.
Man,
apparently
space
highway
traffic.
to space is quite busy.
Space traffic is getting very busy here. But you're going to do a special, you have a special, I would say it'd be a special honor, but a special part of your job when Crew 4 does land. Tell us about that, Alex.
Yes, that's an honor indeed. So we, from ESA, we get to send 3 people to the recovery boat from SpaceX that's picking up the astronauts from the water, really. So the spaces on the boat are very limited, obviously. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that, to being on the boat and seeing it up close and personal, how that is handled, and trying to give a hand where I can.
See the toasted marshmallow up close there. That would be awesome. Can't wait to hear about that experience for you there. But what will your job entail there? Yeah, and of course, Alex is supporting the ESA astronaut Samantha Cristoforetti, her second trip there. We're going to talk a lot about her here on our Stay Curious program here.
Yeah, so I'm going as the ESA crew representative. So we have also there an ESA flight sergeant and ESA photographer. And obviously, first priority is the crew and the health. So when they land and get out, they get a quick medical checkup to make sure they're all fine. And then they get put in the helicopter and flown to an airport where the NASA Gulfstream is waiting to take them to Ellington, so they can do their rehabilitation at the Johnson Space Center. And Samantha's going to pick up there by an ESA plane and then brought to Cologne. The building next door is the Envy Hub, and that's where the European astronauts do their rehabilitation. And so my job is, first of all, not stand in the way. But then also to make sure to see maybe if the flight surgeon needs a hand, and just be ready to jump in where needed. I do have a satellite phone with me, so if time allows, I might give the phone to Samantha so she can phone her family,
Wow.
things like that. So
well, and wherever humans travel, whenever they go to a port of call, so to speak, or whatever, they always love seeing a smiling, familiar face, and that's going to be you.
That's true. Yes,
you'll be like home to her, on there. Your beard's looking good. You gonna keep it on for her, or what? Yeah, too far down the line to think about that, huh?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Samantha has been not cutting her hair while she was in space. That's something she picked up from Gennady Padelka, the Russian cosmonaut who holds the record for the most cumulative time in space.
Okay.
So she's trying that out, but I don't think I will try that out here.
Yeah. Well, how cool is that Alex Karl is that familiar face that a space traveler is going to see, and the just I can't wait to hear your stories about that and see the pictures that the ESA photographer is going to do with that. So, but we're going to talk just a few minutes here because Alex is going to an important international conference. We're going to hide my face here and put up that picture there. Did that work, Marty? Oh, yeah, go to the next one there. And in Paris is the IAC, the International Astronautical Conference. Is that what that means? Yeah, International Astronautical Congress. And there are over 4,800 papers from 97 countries submitted to this, which Alex, tell us, this seems a lot like a trade show with a scientific research bend to it.
I think it's almost more than that. So it's one of the biggest space conferences of the year. It's organized by the IAF, that's the International Astronautical Federation, headquartered in Paris. And they're organizing this, I think, since 1951, so before really the space age started. And they're organizing this every year, and it's hosted every year in a different city. So this year it's Paris, France. Next year it's Baku, Azerbaijan, and then we're going to Milan, Italy. And where we're going after that will be decided actually at the conference. There is a committee with all the member organizations that votes. And they're usually about 5 candidates, and then we will know where the journey takes us in the future. But it's huge. So I think this year there are about 6,000 participants, and as you said, about I don't know how many of those papers were accepted, but there are about easily 60, 70 different technical sessions, and about 20 of them run in parallel every day.
I'm putting the block up there now, yes, of the colored block of all the meetings going on, the timeline and so forth. Just
so that is the program. And what I've been talking about was just the gray streaks there you see from Sunday to Thursday this year. So there's a lot going on in parallel. There is a big exhibition area where NASA will have a booth, ESA will have a booth. I'm sure the French Space Agency will be pretty big this year, and about 100 other smaller companies and institutions. And then you might have some networking receptions. There's usually some swag lying around, so it's a good place to stock up on stickers and pins and the like. And a lot of other like their highlight events and plenaries, and it's just almost overwhelming. You definitely have to choose where you want to go, but it's really a great place to network. see and hear the latest news in space, about space, and hear interesting technical discussions and the like. So I'm looking forward to that one. It will actually be the 13th time that I'm going to an IEC.
Oh my gosh, wonderful! You're an old hat at that. So you'll be seeing a lot of great friends and know people that have segued from private business to ESA and stuff like that. That's a lot of fun to think about there. And
Yeah, it's almost more like a space family reunion
hmm
in some sense, because you really meet people you haven't seen in years and can catch up. And
was it suspended during COVID in 2020?
yes, in 2020 they hosted a virtual conference, and they picked up last year. They were in Dubai.
Well, I know Alex will keep me apprised of that. And I failed to mention the last time we had Alex on here was June 27th, celebrating Asteroid Day on June 30th this year. Tell us about your involvement with that cause to bring awareness that not if, but when a big object from space is going to hit the Earth and cause a little bit of trouble, maybe.
Yes, and that's a great segue, because actually I do some asteroid related things at the IAC. So um, they have several committees who are organizing all these technical sessions. And one of these committees is also the Committee on Planetary Defense and Near Earth Objects, and I'm happening to be the chair of that one.
Oh, well, tell us
So,
what's happening September 26th as far as planetary defense.
oh, that's going to be a very exciting day. That's the day that DART will make a literal impact on Dimorphos, the moon of asteroid Didymos, when we, and well, it's we in the planetary defense community sense, but it's actually a NASA mission. It's called DART, the Double Asteroid Redirect Test, if I'm not mistaken. And they're trying out a deflection technique called the kinetic impactor. So they're intentionally going to fly the spacecraft head on into the moon of the asteroid. It's a binary system. And they will release a CubeSat that's going to take some pictures. And
Oh,
also
wow.
in I believe in 4 years, ESA's Hera probe will arrive there and take detailed measurements of the impact crater. But the great thing is already we can see from Earth, or we expect to see that we can get an idea if it worked. Well, did we hit? And also we know the orbit of the moon pretty well, and the experts predict about a change in the orbital duration of about 10 minutes. So it's going to be very interesting because we've never tried this out. It works great on paper.
Mm-hmm.
But as we've seen, and also at Asteroid Day, where I talked to some of the scientists involved, or rather they gave some presentations as well, with the recent missions to the asteroids Bennu with OSIRIS-REx and Ryugu from Hayabusa 2, the surface behaved differently than they expected.
Mm-hmm.
So they said every time we're going to an asteroid, we have surprises. So they're wondering what will happen now, because how effective the technology is to deflect an asteroid really depends what it's made of, and is it a rubble pile, is it a solid piece of rock? So how much momentum and energy is being transferred there? So that's where the experts are really looking at and trying to figure out, like, hey, what will happen? What is new? What did we not think about? So and that's going to happen on the 26th, I think, in the evening Eastern time, if I'm not mistaken. So
Be
gonna
excited about
be
that. Stay curious. I'll be all over that. It's just amazing. These asteroid bodies, they are very different. We think we know about them, and then, that one you mentioned that is just a pile of rubble, just loosely held together, basically. And
Yeah, I
so,
think they published a paper recently in Science even, that the surface of the asteroid behaved more like a ball bath. A ball bath, is that what it's called? Where the kids play in, you jump
Yes,
in.
yeah,
The
yeah, bull
amusement park.
bath or yeah,
Yeah, a ball
what did,
pit.
yes,
Uh,
right.
so
At the
it's
little
more
fast
sketches
food
like
places
that.
where your kids jump into
Yeah,
all
exactly. Yes.
the balls in the colored balls. Yeah, it acted like that. Yeah, exactly. It's amazing. That's a whole other career for you there, Alex, and I'm sure that would keep you busy enough, I think.
Well, that's my hobby. I'll stick with my job here with the ISS behind me, and that's.
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm an amateur astronomer all my life, and I love making people aware of the fact that space is quite dirty. There's a lot of debris out there from comets that have their tails have thrown stuff in orbits, and a lot of debris. 10 tons of meteor dust falls on the Earth every day. 10 tons. Think about that. So, uh, well, Alex, we're going to segue now into your girl in space up there and show some beautiful pictures and pictures of her. First one I have up there is the aurora from space. Every course 90 minutes around the Earth, they see a sunrise and a sunset every 45 minutes. And when they're over the poles, they see this. Isn't that gorgeous? Samantha
Yeah.
took these pictures. Some of these pictures we're showing here too. But here is Samantha Ferretti showing you in that picture where she's holding the looks like a ham radio microphone or something there.
Yes, it's actually the ham radio. It's called ARIS, the amateur radio on the ISS. It's actually located in the European Columbus module. That's where all of the astronauts go to use it. It can be used for scheduled events, like usually with schools. So they're calling school kids usually, and then have kids have the opportunity to talk to space, which is always exciting for them. And most astronauts participate in that, but they can also use it in their spare time. So they can, I think, uh, I read recently somewhere on, I don't know where it was, Space News or somewhere, Instagram, that Kjell Lindgren was using it in his spare time, and he talked to an 8-year-old girl in the UK.
Huh. Joe
Which,
Lindgren, the commander, an American up there on Expedition 67. He still is commander, isn't he?
well, he was commander of the Crew 4, but he's
Okay.
not. Oleg Artemyev is the commander of the space station at the
Okay.
moment.
All right. Uh, Next picture we have now another picture of Samantha with Jessica Watkins, the first African American female to live on the space station. Uh, uh, Samantha looks kind of a petite lady. Both these ladies look sort of small. Is she kind of a petite lady?
Well, she's smaller than me, but then again, most people are smaller than me.
Yeah. Well, she looks about 5'6" or something like that. And but anyway, here they are in. Where would they be inside there?
That is the beam module.
Okay.
So the beam, you might remember or have heard of it, of Bigelow Aerospace. They built
Oh,
this
that's the
inflatable
Bigelow
module.
module. Oh,
That is the
okay.
Bigelow one. Yes, and it's
Wow.
actually fairly rare that astronauts enter it, um, because they're using it kind of as a long-term storage place. They put items there they don't need very much, and the reason is right in front of the axis is usually the ARID exercise device, which
Okay.
is used by all the astronauts every day. So it's not an easy place to go to. So they can only access it if they move the ARID to the side, which sometimes happen for
Hmm.
maintenance. Or if they actually need something from there. So that was probably one of those rare occasions where some crews never get to get inside.
Hmm.
So it's that rare. It doesn't even happen every increment.
Yeah, the Bigelow module there, you all remember, has shingles kind of on it. It looks like kind of shingles the way the outside of it is. It's not a pure smooth surface. And it was an experimental module. Bigelow is wanting to build habitats, and instead of jettisoning it off, they just kept it there to test how long it'll last, right? Is that correct,
Yeah.
Alex?
Yes, and also from time to time they take some measurements inside in terms of air quality, and I'm sure they have a radiation detection device in there. So they use it as for passive research as well.
Well, here's Samantha with some plants grown in space. We have a good friend, Gary Stuti, who is an expert on plants here at Kennedy Visitors Complex. He's worked 30 years on plants in there, and not sure what kind of plants those are there, whether it's radish or petunia, but it's growing in space.
I can't answer that either. I know it's part of the veggie experiment that's also housed in Columbus, but I believe it's supported by Huntsville, the
Okay.
Marshall Space Flight Center in the U.S. So the astronauts get to tend to the crops, and it's basically an experiment to see, hey, can we grow crops in space? They're usually useful in terms of they're edible or can be used for other things. Which, of course, long term, when we want to go to Mars, we can't take everything with us. So if we have the knowledge and the technology how to grow plants that can feed us on Mars, that would certainly help us. And some of that technology is developed and tested here on the ISS. From time to time, the astronauts even get to eat the harvest. Sometimes it is just sent back for analysis to make sure in space there are no toxic not materials, but some
chemistry or anything.
Yeah, the chemistry doesn't change suddenly in zero G, and then suddenly what it used to be edible on Earth is now harmful, perhaps in space. So they test it out first before they give the green light for the astronauts to enhance their dinner.
They bring it down to Earth and give it to Mikey to eat. That's a joke here that a little kid Mikey will eat anything first. Well, here's another great picture of a very important event. Tell us about the history and the record breaking of this spacewalk by Samantha Cristoforetti.
Yes, so that was fairly recently on the 21st of July. Samantha became the first European woman to do a spacewalk. And in addition to that, you will notice this is not your usual EMU spacesuit that you use from NASA astronauts, but this is actually the Russian Orlan suit. And while we did have some Europeans doing Orlan EVAs on the old Mir space station, this is also the first time that a non-Russian astronaut has done an Orlan spacewalk from the ISS.
Wonderful. I'm showing the picture with her visor up, and you can see her face and the Earth in the background, and I see either a Soyuz or a Progress docked to the back there. Yeah, just a big moment for ESA, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and it also shows like the cooperation with the Russians in space. It's moving forward. It's going fine. I mean, you have to trust each other in order to do a spacewalk together.
And she did hers with Oleg, the Russian commander up there.
Yes, with Oleg, and I think back then there was his 6th spacewalk, and by now he's at 8. They did
really?
2 more. In the meantime, one they had some problem with the suit, so they came back in after 2 hours, and then they finished it a week later. So he's very, very experienced spacewalker.
I like this picture, Alex. We're talking with Alex Karl. He's in Cologne, Germany, at the European Space Agency headquarters, one of their headquarters there, one of the what equates to Johnson Space Center for us, where the astronauts train. Alex has many things he does there, but one of them is talking to the astronauts occasionally. Here is Samantha all spread out, relaxing, headphones on, listening to some music. I don't know if she's listening to music or not, but it says this is an acoustic test. Understand you recently talked to her.
Yes, actually, I'm a bit familiar with that experiment because it's a European one. And the relaxing is part of the experiment. She's not listening to music, but it's basically an experiment that tests the hearing capability of the astronauts. And they do it, I think, about every 2 months or so. And it's to study how the hearing changes, if at all, over the course of their space flights. And they also um, do that before they launch and after they come back, to have like the comparison data. And it's to make sure that the hearing is monitored, so they can find any deviations that there may be. And for that experiment, they need to be very still, because any movement might interfere with the measurements.
Since you know some about this, Alex, is this also gauging the balance, the vestibular area, balance area of our ears?
I don't think this particular experiment does, but I know part of the post-flight. I don't think it's experiments anymore. It's
Okay.
more like the post-flight measures. They take care and check the balance. I'm not aware if there are any done on the space station. There might be some who collect data. I know there's some that have to do with perception, and so that might provide some data for the balance system, but I'm not too sure actually. We
Okay.
need to check.
Well, final picture we have of Samantha in space is this one that you said you have another experiment you're familiar with.
Yes, she's actually working with the fluid science laboratory, and before I became a EuroCom, I was working with payloads for 10 years, and about 5 of those years I spent with the Fluid Science Laboratory. So I'm very familiar with that experiment, and it's always great when she's working with that, because then I'm interfacing with my old colleagues as well, since they're the experts and can support the activity that's ongoing.
Marty was interested why she's wearing gloves.
That is a requirement for. So you see, she has a drawer open, and inside is basically, that's where the real experiment is. The rack just provides data and power. And the experiment is in the drawer and can be exchanged. It's the soft matter dynamics. And in this case, she was exchanging some samples. And there are some cameras who look through optical windows to take the measurements. And of course, if you touch it by accident and put some dirt or fingerprints on there, then the measurements will not be as useful. So therefore, as a precaution, the astronauts wear gloves so they cannot stain the glass through which the microscopes and the other equipment is looking through.
Huh, that's interesting there. Yeah, I find that interesting anyway. Well, we've enjoyed talking with Alex. Karl here. Keith Sewell's watching here from Titusville. Ben Husitz also staying curious today. We have Dave Stange watching Alex. He's one of our main watchers from Michigan, the state of Michigan up there. Tom Usiak in Pennsylvania. Chris Calley is a renowned space artist that I'd like for you to meet someday, Alex. He is up in Connecticut. William Whiting, good to see that you're watching today. And Christopher Mick is he is a solar system ambassador educator in Wisconsin there. So I know they're all enjoying your insight here, Karl, to a glimpse into the ESA operation there from somebody who's part of the whole machinery there. You're one of the spokes of the wheel, I guess, there.
I guess that's one way of putting it, yes.
Yeah. How many people are involved in your team and group?
I mean, in Cologne, we have about 100, 120 people.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, they're involved in different things, from training to the operations to the medical support, administration. So it's And we are not alone. There are other centers who take care of the systems, for example, the Columbus systems. They sit in Munich. And we're working with all our international partners. So there's quite a large number of people involved.
Hmm. I'm gonna, as we're at the end of talking to Alex here, I wanted to show another pretty picture of the that blue on the bottom is called Noctualescent Clouds. No, the Earth's not really upside down. What is right side and upside, you know? But her photography is really good, and you sent me to her Flickr channel, and I just started pulling off pictures, and I said I can't show all these. Are you kidding me? We'll look at them later, but wanted to show that, and of course the thin blue line there with the crescent moon rising. What a gorgeous photo that is, and looking at the. So I want to share a quick personal story there with you, Alex, that I didn't share with you online. Marty, what happened there? There we go. I do an outreach moon gaze at one of the hotels on Cocoa Beach, Beachside Hotel. I've done it for years, and this Friday I had my telescope out there and support the museum and a big crowd of family. It's a big Beachside Hotel's a family hotel for sure. One of the older
I
ones.
think I know which one you mean.
Right beside Ron John's. Beside has the lazy river in it there.
Because no, the reason I'm saying this is last time I was in the studio with you.
Mm-hmm.
The following day, I was at this hotel and I spoke to one of the ladies there who works there, and she was like, "Hey, I saw you on Stay Curious yesterday. Mark sometimes comes here and provides the stargazing."
Oh, sweet.
So,
Well, I'm finishing the stargazing and starting to kind of put things away. And a Japanese man and woman approached me, and I had a sense that they were JAXA because I knew a lot of JAXA space people stay there, and they had Canadians stay there too during the Artemis scrubs. And so this lady comes up to me with a man, and she says, hi, and so forth, and we're with JAXA. And I says, yeah, you look familiar to me. And she goes, yeah, I was here last year. I go, yeah, that's right, when we launched astronaut Hashidi to the space station on Crew 2. And she looks at me and she says, well, say hello to Mr. Hashidi. And he was the man with her. And so I got to meet him and talk to him, and a very delightful guy. He's I don't know if you ever met Hashidi.
not personally, no. I think I talked to him in space, but I haven't shook his hand yet.
Well, I shook his hand and got a selfie with him and everything. He was, I was quite, I usually don't get kind of giddy over astronauts, but I did because he was interested in my stargazing. And then I said, man, he's one of 2 or 3 people that have been on the shuttle, the Soyuz and the Dragon. I know he has. Is there anyone else, Alex, that comes to mind that has?
I think there were 3 people when he launched. Although,
anyway, I'm bragging about meeting an astronaut, like and usually I don't, but that was just such a cool little encounter with people. Because I warn people on Stay Curious: look around when you're gassing your car, or at the convenience store, or a restaurant, because we had about 30 or 40 astronauts were on the Space Coast for the Artemis launch over the weekend. So, buddy, we so appreciate you being here. I'm going to show this last picture here.
And I have one more thing to say. Related to this picture, because actually on the 21st of this month, we're gonna have a few days before on the 21st, the new Soyuz is coming up. So a few days before the current Soyuz will go down. And with that, there's also the change of command at the space station. So actually Samantha will be the commander. And I'm just thinking if I just spoiled the surprise.
Oh, okay.
But because I'm not sure if ESA made the announcement yet.
So, oh, well, they don't watch Stay Curious. Don't worry about that. You're not in trouble yet. All right, but
Yeah.
well, that'd be cool.
Yes.
They're what a and a worthy person indeed. We've enjoyed you sharing about Samantha. Anything to say about her personality or anything that
I enjoy working with her, so I'm looking forward for her safe return, of course.
and you'll be there to see it. Alex Carl will be there on the boat
Yeah.
when the Crew Dragon capsule lands. Alex, you said where will it land? Atlantic or Gulf of Mexico?
Uh, right now, we would have to bet. It usually depends on the weather, and NASA makes the decision, or NASA and SpaceX, they make the decision, I believe, maybe 2 days before landing. Um, but there are a couple of options, either in the Gulf or in the Atlantic, but somewhere near Florida.
Somewhere near Florida, definitely. So, well, Alex, it's always great that you're part of Stay Curious, and we enjoy what you've added to our program. And you've got a bunch of friends here, so we can't wait to see you come back on the Space Coast. Anything else you'd like to say to our audience out there? We've had our usual people watching today, right, Marty? And we handled another Streamlabs program through Google Meet, seemingly flawlessly, I hope. So, Alex, what's a parting comment from you, sir?
um, Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time again in person, or perhaps you do a show from the European Astronaut Center someday.
Oh, I would love that. We would love that. Get the schnitzel ready, right, Marty? We'll dive into that. Well, Alex, thank you very much. Tomorrow on Stay Curious, we are going to have former shuttle launch director Mike Leinbach. He only launched 37 space shuttles. We're going to get his take on the Artemis scrubs and all that's entailed in that and how serious this is. I remember Alex at our Shuttle Fest, Marty. Uh, uh, Mike Leinbach, the launch director of 37 shuttles, said his job was to keep the shuttle on the ground until it was ready to launch. And I thought that was an interesting twist. So, Alex, Karl, thank you for being part of Stay Curious and a good friend of the American Space Museum. And until tomorrow, when we have Mike Leinbach with us on Stay Curious, I'm Marquette saying I can't wait to see you again to bridge the space between us.